All right, everybody. Hey, it is Bridgette Lynn Dolgoff. Today is 20 Minutes with Bridgette, and let me check the date. The date is May 19th, 2020. And first, I just want to kind of go to the blog. And let's see, let me see if I can screen share. And let me see if I can share. Hold on one second. Okay. All right, I'm hoping it's on screen share. So I have a blog that I've prepared for you. So today is 20 Minutes with Bridgette, May 19th, 2020. And we have a buffet of information. Today we're going to be talking about the third eye chakra. And I also put a link on this blog going back to the root chakra because there's information there that you may have missed about the basic chakras we have and how they actually work with the energy field and the diaphragms of the body. So the diaphragm that we're working with, this part of the head that needs to contract, right? Most of the time it doesn't because we've had a lot of head injuries or we've had braces, which are like the worst possible thing to this part of your head. I don't care how crooked your teeth are. You were made the way that you are and are going to work the best the way that you are. It's really important for the compression to work. Otherwise, the third eye chakra is not going to work and it's not going to do its job. Okay. You can find the video, all video records on Patreon. There's a link here for that. Here's the symbol of the third eye. So we're going to focus kind of more on addiction, right? So addiction bypasses the spiritual realm. So whatever you're addicted to, in numerology, like I kind of understand the number 7 because its duality, its polarity is divine intervention or addiction, right? So you're either stuck in one side or the other with that number. And you want to definitely, with a 7, be on the positive side. Okay, so this is kind of what I wrote. Addictions are physical things that override your free will, your own will, feelings, and block the heart chakra bridge to the divine will in the throat chakra. The lower mind will control the body. And I'm calling, the lower chakras kind of part of the lower mind of the earth thing. But, you don't want to get out of balance, and be like super spiritual or super, earthbound. They need to work together. They need to be unified. And the heart unifies both these chakra fields. This is what they do. Okay. The lower mind control the body and all the systems. Until the addiction is met, then the mind, the body, and emotions will check out for a period of time. So they kind of go, you just kind of go into like a long-term dormant phase before the next, rise of addiction starts to take place. Balance and neutrality are not always easy ways of being, accomplishing that passage into the third eye chakra, or we call it observer, overmind, God, self, knower, higher self, and more. Lots of different ideas and thoughts about that. Our path is about balancing the two ways, the earth way and the spirit way. That is why I call this world the second, this is why I call this world the second dimension reality, not the third. It is a polarity between two things and the duality of the perspective you wish to see it from. A seesaw going up and down, back and forth, never in the middle, never creating a bridge, never being in balance between them. The third eye chakra is where we meet our knowing or knower self, which is, you call it a higher self, whatever you want to call it. Okay. Two-dimensional aspects and constant play. These are just kind of polarities, right? The two-dimensional polarity, dualities. So this is kind of like how they run back and forth. Two-dimensional aspects and constant play, body and spirit. right hemisphere and left hemisphere, the right side of the body, the left side of the body. You know, I'm going to put in here the female and the male, upper jaw, lower jaw, good, bad, saint, sinner, feeling good, feeling bad, lower earth chakras, higher spiritual chakras, knowing versus hope, being versus doing, trust versus negotiating, critical thinking versus addiction, yin, yang, and it goes on and on and on and on, right? So in other videos, I've talked about, you know, the seesaw and being in the neutral place, and the neutral place between the chakras is the heart. It's the heart bridge. Okay, and it connects us to up and down, so below. So I could add that in there. Another 2D duality polarity is, you know, above, below, inner, outer. So lots of other things that I could add on to that. And we're constantly doing this instead of just, you know, walking the heart bridge from the earth chakras up to the cosmic or cosmos, knowing and understanding, right? All right. This was a piece that I found on the internet, Third Eye Chakra Transcends Time. Not really, but we're going to get into the seventh eye chakra, which is a new chakra since 95, in a few more 20 minutes with Bridgette down the road. And that one actually starts to transcend us through time. But anyway, there's kind of a blurb here about the third eye chakra. And I don't really believe like the third eye chakra is the seat of wisdom and the seat of conscience. I don't really believe that to be true. It's actually a knower, right? So it's connected in ways to the cosmos, so it just knows. You know, there is no wisdom or anything else. It just knows. Okay. All right, and here's some information about third eye chakra at a glance, just to kind of the different kinds of, you know, little blurbies. And, you know, that they got this kind of wrong. I pulled this off a website, but it says endocrine gland is the pituitary gland. It's not, it's the pineal. So just the things that are just kind of out of whack, but stuff to look at, right? I just, good, bad, or indifferent. I put links on here so that you guys have rabbit holes to kind of go down. Here's the whole link for that. Okay, so I want to talk about addiction and how addiction plays into the lower three chakras, because they deal with everything in this world, right? So food, sex, drugs, alcohol, shopping, you know, obsessive compulsive behavior, and how that's responding to the environment. So addiction is a lot more complicated because addiction stands in the way of you being able to use your own will and your free will, which is your third chakra, which is still part of the earth chakras. You got to cross the bridge right into feeling, going through the healing cycle of why you have those addictions, and it could break you. So then you can get past that into the throat chakra, which is the divine will. So you can actually start to move into the knower, right? The next stage out of the throat chakra, the mouth of God chakra, where you're picking up more information, and then into the third eye chakra, which is the knower. That's connected more to the cosmic mind. That's the way I kind of look at it. Or the great computer in the sky, the creator, right? That's kind of like how I roll with it. So my lower chakras gives me a sense of self, me different from other things, individuality. It's where, you know, we want to fight, but it's where we deal with the whole world and how it impacts us, and the physical, you know, everything that's happened physically. So it can be a difficult place to be able to get it up higher and connected, right? So the heart is going to connect both, and that way it's like a shifter gear, you know, in a Ferrari. You know, root, first gear, second gear, third gear. We just have to keep from going in reverse. And if we're not working well, the heart chakra throws us back into reverse. So we pick up speed first, second, third gear. We hit that heart chakra and it's not open, it's not working. We can't drive over that bridge, and ka-chunk, it goes right into reverse and stops us and throws us back down. So you got to really do the heart work, which is, you know, the reasons why you do the things that you do and why you can't really control your physical body or your lower human, you know, mind. And that's usually addiction. So addiction is going to be, you know, like a parasite controlling you from getting the bridge connected, the heart, and moving up and down. And there's no reason why you can't have both and be a unified field. One isn't better than the other, but in the lower area, you know, you've just learned a lot of behaviors in this reality that are just not so great. Okay. So when you think about disease of addiction, images of illicit drugs or empty whiskey bottles likely come to mind. But addiction isn't limited to those substances. In fact, experts have determined that humans can become addicted to anything that has the potential of relieve stress or discomfort, right? So it's all this emotional stuff, right? People are drawn to activities that produce a feeling of happiness or euphoria, especially when gratification is immediate. Shortly after high wears off, feelings of remorse and guilt come flooding in, and attempt to escape the come down. People grow dependent on the behaviors or substances that offer relief. Before you know it, you're locked into a vicious cycle of addiction. From food to video games, millions of people have developed dependencies outside of drugs and alcohol. Here's a look, 7 of those unique addictions, blah, 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 blah. There's a link. Also, I put on here A Stroke of Insight by Jill Taylor Bolt. She talks about both sides of the brain. She had a stroke and how they work. She was a brain researcher before this happened. And so she gives us some really good insight about, you know, what we're dealing with. Also, you know, I want to go back to this kind of thing is this is about, you know, why our stationary chakras don't work. This doesn't have anything to do with the new ones, but you know, what can cause these to go out of balance, and also addiction, right? And that the whole line, the whole energy line system is not working. You know, the heart shut down. We can't get to those, you know, we can't get to the 5th and the 6th and the 7th and, you know, the 8th gear. All right. And these are kind of like where the chakras are. And so there's kind of some interesting stuff too about Rudolf Steiner's work, and he talks about how we're in the 5th post-Atlantean epoch. And so I put some links here, and that way you can go and look at his work. I got to do a huge study this winter with classes, which was really insightful. I'd done a lot of biodynamic and phenomenology and a lot of this other work, but you know, it's been years since I had time to actually take some courses to actually go back and study his information. And it was really insightful to me to realize that starting in 1410, we're moving into the thinking, right? Critical thinking area of the human being and evolution. And this goes on till 3572. And we're learning about will, freedom in this critical thinking as an individual. And yes, that means that if we have to destroy the planet to try to figure this out, that's probably what's going to happen. But it's part of the human evolutionary cycle and all the beings that are helping us to achieve this goal. And then in the 6th epoch, then we will move into a collaborative, collective, free will, critical thinking. Will be able to work together to straighten out a lot of the past ills. Anyway, so that's what you got. I've got adding some links here with the root chakra stuff. And also I did a really good, Ralph Ring and Marsh Brown are good friends of mine. And we did a talk, and they called it Conscience Manifestation. They're super cute. And so I left that on there too, so that you can kind of go back and look. And then I've got some areas where you can donate and cryptocurrencies. And if you want to work with somebody personally, you can go to my website, COE-LLC, and you can look up, you know, client testimonials, or, you know, fees. And area, and then there's also an area to make an appointment. Yep, but yep. All right. So let me get out of here. And I'm probably going to bypass the 20 minutes, and I apologize. I just, yeah, it's just some of these topics, or even just to get like the basic pieces in there, are tough. So I just kind of want to go back over my list here that I have. Neutrality and balance, right? So that's where we really need to be, between the upper and the lower, and below as above, and the female and the male, and the, blah, 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 blah. The polarity and duality. So we need to be right in the middle, right? Heart, so that way we can go up and down, round and round, and off that seesaw. Woo! Get off the seesaw. All right. Yeah, so I think, in the past, why people find meditation useful is because it can kind of help them to get into the knower mind, or the third chakra, get into this place of observation, and also sometimes creating an inner world, where they can go. But, we should be able to do this all the time, even without meditation. We should be connected, to all aspects of ourselves. So it's really important to seek out the addiction behavior. Sometimes you might not know it's addictive behavior because you learned it from somebody else. And every time you're around those somebody else's, it's normal, right? So you have to figure out what's normal for you and what's not normal for you, not by figuring out what's outside of you. All right, so let's see. Critical thinking is what we're dealing with now, which is going to, be able to come into the observer. That's a very third eye chakra thing. It's like just looking to see what's going on, and actually, thinking about it without any emotion or going back and forth, or, a physical or chemical, struggle that goes on within us. So critical thinking is like the next level, where, we're going to need the seventh eye that, started coming in. So we're going to talk about that, because the third eye can't get there, obviously, because we still have to do meditation and all of that. And a lot of people just really think that they're connecting with their heart, but they haven't actually done the work, right? And then they can get into other drugs and other things to get there. And we don't want to do any of that. We want to do this sober. We should be able to. It's not a big deal. Just we learned some bad things, and we participated in some bad behaviors. And so that's, where we're at. Okay, so can science basic evolution? So we should probably talk about what consciousness was before. And also, we're not just doing this job for ourselves. We're doing it for the whole planet, and we're doing it for the mineral kingdom and all the spirit beings, and we're doing it for the animals, and we're doing it for, the plants and the water and the air, and we're doing it for all of those who have passed already. And we're doing it for, like the Native people talk about, the 7 generations, playing it forward. And the 7 generations is 3,500 years. So we need to play it forward. So we need to think bigger and better. And so some questions, what am I addicted to? Anything that controls my mind, causes me to do things that I don't really want to do, especially after I've thought about it. Or, anything that I do that I think about that I need something to check out so that I don't have to think about it. And another question, why are you choosing to survive or be trapped? Because that's what's happening. What do you think your higher God would say to you? If your higher self or God, as your friend, what would that being say to you? Probably, hey, you're doing a good job. So just hang in there, keep at it, don't give up. You're almost there. Pat, 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 pat. Because remember, that higher self is just you, right? Just you. And you, humans, are compassionate beings. All right, so I'm going to do a heart space healing, but let me go over this really quick with the mineral kingdom. And then I'm going to do a bigger video on the heart space healing thing that, you know, I do a lot of these shamanism type things where I construct realities that are not in this reality. You can call them imaginary worlds or whatever else. And that's just kind of how I work with things. I don't, you know, whatever I need that I feel like I don't have here, I just create it. Okay, so mineral kingdom consciousness is reflective and mirror. That's why, you know, Emoto could do the work that he did, because he was putting out a feeling or a sound or whatever onto a mineral, the water, and it would reflect it back, right? The geometrical patterns and structures were reflecting exactly that back in a right hemisphere symbolic structure, right? So we were at that point in time where we actually had reflective consciousness. That's why people like, I forget what her name was, Dolores Cannon, did a lot of her work, and people would go back into, and I believe past life regression is collective memory. I don't believe it's individual memory, and it doesn't, you know, I've been there, I've done that. And so I just don't participate in any of that stuff. I don't go back to the past anymore because I can't find the answers, right? So I always like try to deal with things now. But Dolores Canyon took people back, and they had memories of being a rock and what that felt like and what that was like, because it's all part of our collective memory. We have been everything, every type of consciousness on this planet, and it is within us. So it is easy to connect to and remember. So then we move to what is the animal consciousness, right? Which is like dreaming. It's like a dreaming consciousness, like when you go to sleep and at night and it's a dream, and there's no variation between the dream and being awake, and that's the animal consciousness. However, there are some pretty interesting things that I've seen with my dog, because I'm teaching her consciousness, the ability to think, to make choices, to make decisions, not to manipulate her, but actually think. And it'll be interesting, like if she does choose to come back into this world, you know, what she'll come back as, maybe, I don't know. But I do believe that I'm raising her consciousness by having her from this picture consciousness to being able to look at things and make a decision. Like sometimes I'll give her the choice of 2 cookies, and she'll smell each one of them, and she'll think about it for a minute, and then she'll choose the one she wants. And I can tell that she's actually thinking, she's not just reacting. So it's our job to raise the consciousness, right, around everything around us. Super important. And so now, you know, kind of before 1410, we were in the human evolution, we were in the feeling epoch, where we were feeling, right? And didn't really have a critical mind to put it on, you know, and before that we were in the animal consciousness. And so now we have to move into critical thinking, which is very much attached to the 3rd eye and the 7th eye, in order to get into the knower, the knowing, right, as an individual here in the 5th epoch. So that's kind of like, I think about that a lot when I'm out and about and looking at stuff. Okay, so real quick, heart space. Okay, I'm just going to give you kind of a couple points. So back when I was around 23, I was going through like a super, super hard time. I'm like going to be 52 in December. And I just was reading a lot of interesting stuff, and I was going back and reading books that I'd read before. And I really decided that I was going to build a space inside myself, inside my heart, that I needed, because I couldn't find this space. I couldn't find a space to retreat to. I couldn't find a space to go and be in where I felt safe and I felt like away from everything in this world. And one that, you know, like I could build and make comfortable. So in the beginning, what happened was I had a elevator that I built in my inner mind, constructed it, and it took me down, and at first I had a lot of, like trap doors, and once I'd go through, there'd be like locking, steel as I would go down to my heart center, right? Because I needed a lot of protection because I was really beat up. I mean, now that's not really kind of a big deal for me, right? So in the beginning, I felt like I really needed to create a safe, anchored, grounded, secure space that nobody else could get to. And this is kind of like what shamanism, helps you to do, is get you to places that you have and to construct those realities, right? And sometimes they're imaginary. After you've built them for periods of time, they no longer become imaginary, and you can just kind of go into them. And sometimes they need a little fixing and repairing, even if you haven't been there a long time. So I built this room. It was a really nice room, and it had this really soft couch with these really cool pillows on it. And just a place where I could go and sleep and just, and once I got used to going in there, once I built it, every night I would go in and build it. This went on for like a year, actually, because when I first went into my heart chakra, it was like a really horrible, like ancient, like dungeon where there's like skeletons and, dead bodies and defecation and underground. And I was kind of horrified at first at like what I saw. And I thought, well, why would anyone come in here? I don't even want to come in here and see, what my heart space looks like if I put a image on it. So I had to actually keep going in there and cleaning it up, bulldoze the rock building, pull off the bars, clean up the dead bodies, and put them, you can put them into like a energy dumpster and then have your spirits take it away, and then you can start building whatever you want. So I built a new space that was like just this room of comfort, had big fluffy blankets on it, was a place that I could just go and sleep and relax. And so I would go there at night, I would do work on it, and then I would stay in there at night when I went to sleep. So even if there was stuff going on in my environment, the part of me that needed to be safe was safe inside my comfy loft, right? It took me about 6 months. Every night I'd keep going in there, and parts of the dungeon were back, right? And then I'd have to like really get in there and just bust it loose and, get my little bulldozer out and drive it and dump it and, keep working at it until it was gone and I had this clear space. So sometimes you have to construct, right? You have to spiritually and physically construct a new reality, right? Okay. Later on, after I'd been healed, then I actually changed it and I got rid of all of the security structures and I got rid of the loft and I actually made it bigger, and I made it into a secret garden that had just a simple gate with a lock, and the key was there right by the gate, without a lot of security. And then I had this like 4-tiered marble beautiful fountain that I built in there, and around the bottom, the base, were places to lay down where I could kind of get the mist on me from the fountain, and I could lay there on the marble by the fountain, and I could take in the energy and the sounds of the frequencies of my fountain. And back then we didn't have internet when I was doing all this, so I had to actually go to the library and do a lot of studying on different things, like frequency healing and energy healing and different fountains and shapes and things like that. Maybe there when I had visited a fountain where it off-gassed kind of water particles, I would stand in them. That way I could know what it felt like in my scape, in my constructed reality, my world, where I could go. And I planted all these beautiful herbal medicinal flowers and plants, and the aroma is just incredible. So It had been a long time since I had been in there and looked at all that, and I needed to clean it up a few nights ago. So this is why I'm talking about it. I haven't been in there in like 15 years maybe. And it was kind of overgrown. Everything was good. I just needed to clean up the old and just let the new come in. And there were a lot of seeds, new seeds that I wanted to plant, because in the last few years I've been doing a lot of wildcrafting herbal medicine and going to school for it. So there were a lot of new plants that I actually wanted to plant in there. So I have my seed and I planted into the ground, right? And then now I'll get to go in there and see what it's going to grow into. So I also have these medicinal plants in there that I can use energetically to heal myself. You know, I can eat them while I'm in there, while I'm laying there and getting my healing and frequency. So that way I'm working on the inner world and I'm working on the physical world. So just some kind of ideas if you want to go in there and start looking around. And then, you know, maybe in the future I'll do a bigger, you know, class on heart space healing and those kinds of ideas and types of shamanism that I use in order to create my own reality within a reality. All right, everybody, that's it. It's been 30 minutes with Bridgette today. I apologize, but hopefully you got a lot out of it, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much.